2018. It's our second year with the market garden. Something different that we did this year is that we had a little plant sale and we sold tomato plants. We were hoping to have some other vegetable starts potted up, but we simply ran out of time. We did other things like we transplanted a lot of different vegetables into the garden this last week because the weather was really great. Also, we put down this gravel, which is really fantastic. We also have this new flower bed that wasn't here last year. Here you can see what this little area looks like. I'm calling it the courtyard because it's this really awesome area in between the cold shed where we're going to have a little cold storage area and also a washroom. And the other project is this overhang that I am working on. It will provide some shade when it gets really hot this summer. We're planning on having farm stand hours on Sundays, so that'll be a nice reprieve from the hot sun. So anyways, folks got to see our garden today. Got to see this really awesome flower bed, the greenhouse. That's what the greenhouse looks like right now. We've got a bunch of different plants that need to go in the ground. A lot of watermelons, eggplants, basil, lettuce, onions, leeks, but we've also got half of our greenhouse planted in greenhouse tomatoes. The other half will be planted in tomatoes and cucumbers that need to be planted still. It feels like we're really behind, but we're a lot farther ahead than we were last year at this time. So just take what you can get, and we're plugging along. Each year it seems to get better. So these are our plots. The way that it's outlined is that plot 1 is over here. We're not gonna plant in that plot this year, we decided, because it's gonna need a little extra TLC. There's a lot of rock and we need a little bit more time to prep those beds before we decide to plant in those beds. So anyway, and then this right here is plot 2, then it goes plot 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So basically what the plan is this year is that our planting schedule and our crop rotation, we're basically starting on this side of the garden with our early crops and then working our way across to that side of the garden. And on that side we'll have our summer broccoli and cauliflower and some late beans. We also have got leeks and onions. We have onions already planted, but then we still need to plant some bunching onions that are going to go in plot 10. So last year, if you had been following along on our social media stuff or been out to the farm, last year we only grew vegetables on plot 5 and 6. And so this year we've got a lot more going on. So like I said, plot 1 is gonna need a little extra TLC, but here we'll start at plot 2. We've got a bit of asters and other cut flowers. We've got a couple beds that need to be planted in broccoli. We still need to burn the holes in the ground cover. Radishes, we've got some bok choy under the agribon that's looking really pretty. The bok choy down the line, we've got some really pretty red bok choy that's doing really well. Our focus this year is to add color to our CSA baskets, have different varieties, and experiment with some different heirloom types of varieties of vegetables. This is some kohlrabi. We also have got some red kohlrabi down the line, so there's some variety there. And then we have some kale on this bed, which is the same idea as the kohlrabi. We've got some red kale, and then at the end of the bed we've got some green kale Got some weeds in here we need to get in with the scuffle hoe and weed these beds. It's a little hairy. But since it is our second year and these plots have not been grown on, we're definitely going to be dealing with some weed pressure. These beds are broccoli beds. This is a bed of amaranth, and there's 2 different types of amaranth here. Our hope with these flower beds is that we'll use the flowers in our excuse me, in our weekly flower bouquets for CSA members. They'll also grow up, they'll grow and we'll have to support them, but we're hoping that they'll offer some wind protection. So these are our artichoke plants, and we've got some marigolds planted in between, but they're looking good. A funny story about the artichokes and the marigold combo. When Marcus and I were first growing a garden, we were first together, we had a vegetable garden. We planted a bunch of different things, and the only things that survived were the artichokes and the marigolds. And even then, the artichokes, we didn't actually get a crop off of it because the artichoke ended up blooming before we got to it. So we had marigolds and artichoke, those big pretty purple artichoke blooms that are kind of thistly looking. Anyway, we've got a bunch of squash beds, summer squash and zucchini, a few different varieties, and then we've got cauliflower right here. This is a white variety called Bishop, and then this bed has got 5 different types of cauliflower, all different colors, a red, a purple, a green, and then another white variety. But our hope is to have a few, like in one basket, have a few different colors of a small-headed cauliflower. And then the Swiss chard is looking good. So we've got 2 different types of ground cover. We've got this biomulch. It's just a plastic that you put the T-tape, which is our irrigation. Right here. It's quarter turn valve. It's a drip line. You put it down, you prep your bed, you put the drip tape down, and then you put your biomulch over the top of the drip line, and then you just seal the edges with this dirt. Anyway, the other type that you see is this ground cover. It's a landscaping fabric. We burn holes with a torch. There's drip tape under this too, but this will last quite a few years if you take care of it. And then of course the spacing, we'll mark the spacing when we roll these up in the fall so that we can use them again with the right crop. We also have hoops set up. We need to put some agribon over the top, which is this white stuff, to prevent bugs. Alright, so this last bed in plot 1 is celery, and it's coming along just fine. It looks like this. Got a whole row. So the thing about this biomulch is that if there's any holes, then the little weeds are going to come up. We've got so much weed pressure, but it's okay. Anything is better than last year. Our first year we had just so many weeds, and that's to be expected with our first year. So we've got this plot in a cover crop of oats, and we've got it tarped right now. That's gonna kill the oats, and then what our plan is to rototill the whole plot, because these 2 plots that we grew on last year, we didn't quite get them square, so the plots are a little wonky, and you'll see in this plot over here that it needs a little help. We call it our wonky plot. But this plot specifically is going to need to just be rototilled, and then the beds are going to need to be reformed. We were in a hurry last year, and it did what we needed it to do for last year, and now we're gonna get it back up to where we are, what our goal is. We've also got a couple arches that are going to be fun. We've planted sweet peas, and hopefully those will grow over just to add some detail. So these beds are kind of wonky. They don't look so great. You're gonna see some tomato beds that look a lot better and what we want them to look like, but they're a little hairy in the middle, and we still haven't got the holes burned. We're gonna transplant eggplant, our melons, our pepper plants in this plot. We already have cherry tomatoes planted, and then we have a flower bed at the end that's set up with irrigation already. But these beds are a little wonky because last year when we were hustling to get stuff in the ground, it was our first year, and it's about like a foot off at the end here. The beds are a foot off, and then we also cut them off short last year, so we were going for 75-foot length beds, and they ended up only being 74. So we've got some weed pressure. The tops of the beds were all clean when we put the weed cloth on the ground cover, and now we've got some weeds coming in the seams because we don't have them stapled down quite yet. Anyway, the beds are a little uneven, but they're ready to be planted, and that's just going to be something that we're going to improve upon over the next couple years. So these look really great. Marcus and I are really proud of these. This is our little tomato plot, and we're really proud of how these turned out. This is what we're hoping that other plot looks like in a couple years. Really nice, straight beds. And what our plan is to put in fence posts with trellis for these tomatoes, these field tomatoes. So that's what these extra holes, are for. It's for a fence post. And we'll put up this netting. So instead of a cage, it will just have this trellis system for it to all grow. So these are tomatoes. We have 18 different varieties, I believe. So that's really exciting. We definitely could have used more tomatoes last year, so we planted just a ton of tomatoes. Obviously you saw that we were selling some, so we overplanted. This is our garlic bed, which is a little weedy, but been working on it, trying to get it back under control. Pretty happy with the garlic. So with the stuff that we haven't cultivated and planted, we'll put a tarp on, and you'll see on the other plots that we're kind of just rotating tarps to keep the weeds down. It's a way to avoid a herbicide and just keep control of those weeds. And we're gonna need to get the scuffle hoe out and clean some of these beds on this plot. You'll see in a minute. But here's some spinach. This will be ready for our first CSA basket. We're really excited about our CSA. Our CSA will be starting, the first basket goes out on June 1st, and we've got spinach ready for the basket, bok choy, some salad mix, some nice little golf ball sized turnips which are in this bed. Looking a little hairy, but we'll get it weeded. Some more beets, a different kind of beet. Some carrots. We're trying to plant a few different varieties of carrots to add some color to the basket. These are peas that need to be trellised. We're going to do it the same way that we did with the tomatoes and put up fence posts, and then that mesh trellising material. And this is under here we've got our salad mix. That's just about ready. So it's a bit weedy, but this is the first time that we've this is the first time we've had any plants on this plot. So it's going to take a little extra work to sort through a weedy patch of greens, but it'll be okay. So here are our broiler chickens. They need to be moved already. They were moved this morning. They're needing moved, but they're doing good. They're getting really big. Let's go this way. You can hear the the river. Also a car going by, but as soon as the car goes by, you'll be able to hear the river. This is our broiler pen from last year. It needs some repairs. We're working on it. We're working on trying to get a system down that allows us to move the broiler pen without so much trouble. I can't move this broiler pen by myself, and it's really hard for Marcus to move too, just because it's so heavy, but we'll get something figured out. It's a lot of trial and error we've figured out, which is just fine. It's fun. We get to spend all day out in the garden and watch the kids play. It's worth it. So there's a shot of the greenhouse and the cold storage. Let's go over here. There's not much over here. Like I said, we're moving towards the east. This is also a bed that runs perpendicular to these beds, and this will be cleaned up and put into flowers. Provide a nice little windbreak. So we're going this way, and you can see what the tarp's done. We don't have much planted over here. Like I said, this will be later in the summer that this gets planted. But you can see how the tarp, we've just kind of been rotating the tarp along to keep things clean as best as we can. See how these beds are bare. And then we just are moving the tarp along. Anyhow, that's about it. Our main goal this year, besides providing produce for our CSA members for the Blue Mountain Station and a few different restaurants, is to really get on top of our weeds. Trying to have a more strict schedule on mowing and weeding and moving the tarps, and just trying to figure out exactly what works for us and just work to reduce that weed pressure. So, oh, and then of course, so just outside of the fence, this is our house. There's a plot right outside of the fence in between our house and the garden fence, the big garden fence. And we're gonna plant that in pumpkins. So I think that's about it. Our layers are right in here. They have access to all this grass in between the coop and the river. They do a good job on the weeds back there.